everybody, welcome back to Parsnips and Parsimony. I put on the YouTube channel community page what you guys wanted to see in the garden. Last week I did a whole bunch of stuff, but Art had my camera, so I didn't end up filming anything. But I know you guys said you really wanted to see the nitty-gritty instead of just an overview. So my plan for the next couple of videos is going to be just that. The nitty-gritty. If this isn't your cup of tea, come back in a week. You'll see other content, but right now my life revolves around the garden. That's my reality right now. If you're new here, welcome. Check back the playlist of our garden from 2020, where we ended up harvesting over 1,000 pounds of produce from our third of an acre lot here. So without further ado, let me show you what I did last week, get you guys caught up on where we are right now, and then what my plans are for the upcoming week. So for the garden here near the house, not a whole lot. I've weeded this once, and we've got more weeds that have popped up from underneath the mulch when we put this down. So I do need to finish weeding over here. The parsley wintered over beautifully and is up, but I also, if you remember last year, I had the parsley go to seed, and look, it reseeded. And I have several of those plants throughout the garden. There's some over here, there's some over in the onions. So we're gonna still keep this as herbs. Unfortunately, my thyme did not survive. I did replant it in the greenhouse, but it didn't make it this year. So you can see I have a kale from my cold frame as well as spinach. I replanted beets and lettuce, did not have any success with those coming up, which is unfortunate. Usually this does really well, but sometimes that happens. We've also already gotten all of the mulch down for the pathway, so it's just pretty much going to be finishing weeding and planting in this bed. The garden out here will have tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, some kale. In fact, you can see the kale that wintered over here. That is going to seed. I'm hoping to collect the seeds so I don't have to buy kale seeds next year. Over here by the chicken coop, I'm turning this into an herb garden. I've already moved my chives over here. I also purchased a lavender. We have a baby lavender there, some garlic chives, and then back here, I don't think they're coming up quite. Oh, there they are, just starting to sprout. I planted all sorts of zinnias all along the back. These daffodils are going to be dying down shortly, and then the zinnias can just grow right up, and then I'll have my herbs right in the front garden. We're already starting to harvest our rhubarb, which is doing very well this year. And then as for our back garden here, the kids helped me plant parsnips and carrots in these two rows right here. They haven't sprouted yet. And then back here was my early spinach as well as my lettuce, which seems to be doing okay. It hasn't been doing great, but it's growing better than what I had planted earlier. I also had to replant all of my peas because the first crop of peas just did not come up, but you can see these guys are doing really, really well. And this is the spinach that I overwintered from last year. So I planted this in the fall, covered it, and it survived all winter. I've been cutting it right down at the bottom, you can see that. And it's doing very well. That is just starting to bolt, so I'm gonna harvest that. You'll see all those little leafy fronds. That's all volunteer dill. And then over here, the garlic is doing phenomenal. Our greenhouse is almost complete. We need to finish a couple of the panes, and then there's two little sections of the vent that Art needs to finish, but it's almost complete. It's been warm enough that I've been able to move my plants in here, and yes, my chickens have enjoyed being in here. Hello, girls. I'm gonna invade your space. Excuse me, girls. Have my plants in the greenhouse here. I've already started planting our tomatoes. These guys were definitely ready to go in. Have lots of different peppers. They're gonna go in probably in 2 weeks because I just transplanted them. Also have basil back here doing fabulous. 3 different varieties of eggplants, a few onions here. These are our oxheart tomatoes, which these were planted about 3 weeks later than my other ones. You can see the difference here. So these aren't gonna go out quite yet, but pretty soon. And then we have some rosemary here, a thyme. Uh-oh. That's not a good sign. I bet a chicken did that. These are zinnias. I've got to transplant those. And then I also have some tomatoes that my neighbor asked me to try growing for him. So those are growing as well. And then just a few more varieties of peppers and tomatoes. You're crafty, trying to escape. You know that? Mm-hmm. Oh, they're 2 naughty ones. All right, go back. Go back in. Go back. Thank you. You knocked your gate down. And we always have the case of the wandering chickens who are being naughty, and I've got to catch her. Come here, girl. You're not supposed to be in my garlic patch. Now I've got to catch you and hold a camera. Let's see if we can do this here. Come on, go back. Go back. Come here, girl. For our garden that we are crop sharing with our neighbor, this is where we did most of our work last week. Bugs everywhere out here. And I'm really excited to see how this is going to work out this year. This is, I don't know if you guys can gather the size, it's a little bit bigger than my back garden, so it's really quite large. And our neighbor down the street grew some of the plants himself in a little greenhouse, and he shared, so we've got some yellow squash and zucchini already planted. And then he had this fabulous cucumber plant. I mean, look at this, guys. He is truly, truly an excellent gardener. My aspiration someday to grow plants like this. Anyways, you'll see all those mounds. Those two are watermelons. We have multiple other mounds of spaghetti squash, acorn squash, zucchini, any seeds that you guys have sent me, they are all in here. We also have a half row of potatoes here, and then a whole row of tomatoes right down the side here. And I foresee we'll tie those right up to the fence here. And on the back side of this garden, we are planting corn. We have an issue with, or we've been told that we have raccoons in the area, and that the neighbors that have tried to grow corn have had issues with the raccoons eating everything. So I've done a lot of research, watched some YouTube videos, and we're gonna try the Three Sisters method. If you're not familiar with that, it's where you plant corn, beans, and squash all in the same area, so it deters, actually the beans help the corn, and then the squash helps deter the raccoons. I do not know if this will work. There's, I'm new to this, but we're gonna give it a shot. You guys are gonna be able to come along and see if it works, and if it works, maybe you can try it. But we're doing 2 plantings of corn, so I have 4 hills that are planted. The corn will be in the center here, the beans will be around them, and then squash will be on the corners of each hill. So that's this week currently planted. In 2 weeks we have 4 more hills here that we'll go ahead and plant those in. We were also able to put in a nice sized row of raspberries. Not sure if we're going to get any this year, but they look pretty healthy so far, and there was an existing raspberry already here, and that one is definitely looking promising with those raspberry flowers. Lastly, we have one more garden over here. Let's see if I can get in there. And in this back bed, we have a row of existing blueberries. These are my neighbors. And there's wild strawberries, lots of flowers. I'm hoping that maybe there'll be some strawberries on them. And then we put in our tomatoes. These are yellow and delicious tomatoes. You guys actually, one of you had sent me yellow tomato seeds. I've never had them before, but we went ahead and put those in. We have a wide row of bush beans here, and then, if you can't guess, these are going to be our pole beans. Again, we're using everything right here off the land, so those sticks were and trees were in the woods over there, and we were just able to pull them down and use them, and I foresee using them for several years. We also have another blackberry raspberry patch right here in the back end of the garden. Some existing mulch here that we'll use throughout the planting. And then we're hoping to put peppers, as well as another thing of tomatoes and eggplants back here. And here in the center, we've already planted some kale, which is already coming up, if you guys can see that right there. So much space for planting, and just hoping and dreaming that we are going to have another record year. We're trying new things this year. I have no idea if they're going to work. We did go to the hardware store today. We just picked up some fertilizer. I got 10-10-10, and for side dressing the beans and things like that. If you guys remember last year, I did a lot of side dressing, which really worked very well for getting that second crop of beans and the tomatoes, and it worked. And maybe it was just the weather last year, but last year was a fabulous garden year, so I want to do the same thing I did last year and see how well it works. My plan for this week and what I'm hoping to film for you guys is just planting the majority of my garden. We're looking at the mid to high 50s all week this week, so it's really a good time to get those plants in acclimated before it gets, before that temperature might drop down, although it's looking like this nice weather may be here to stay. But that's the scoop. That's where we stand with the gardens. I will be working on filming all of this for you this week. If you guys have questions, you can find me over on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on the community page here. If you guys don't know how to find the community page, let me know and I can show you guys how to get to the community page, because I do a lot of posts there and I would love to hear what you guys are working on in your gardens. But as always, thanks so much for watching. I hope that these videos are inspiring to you. And even if you can't have a large garden, even if you just need to do container gardening, get out there, plant something new, try it, see how it works, because it might just be your next favorite item that you never knew that you liked until you grew it and ate it right from your own garden. Hope you're having a fabulous day, and we'll see you for our next video.